People do things for their own reasons. And this is very logical, right? Yeah, of course they do. But the key thing here is you can't change someone's mind. All you can do is help them see a different perspective so that they may change their mind themselves. And if you're not doing that, right, it becomes adversarial almost, the conversation. So here's a really important thing, especially for the sales conversation. I never want you to make your recommendation about what you think somebody should do until you can say this phrase. Because you said X, Y, and Z, this is what I recommend. And this is really important because those questions that you ask and the conversation that you have will uncover those things for that statement. So in the chat, what do you need to know from the person you're speaking with in this important conversation? What do you need to know from them before you can make a recommendation? And everybody's going to be different because of their world. Allie needs to know their pain points. Yeah, that's a good one. Budget. Yeah.
Budget. Yeah.
That's a big one. Readiness to engage. Yeah.
Yes.
So that goes to the timing. What their processes are. Yes, that makes sense for compliance. What they need. Their target audience. Yeah. What else? What else? Situational needs. Okay. Reasoning behind the feedback. Oh, this is great. Reason for moving. I wonder if I'm always so curious. Speaking of curiosity, like if people sometimes they may not tell you the real reason, but reason for moving, yeah, that certainly goes to timing and budget, right? If they have to move quickly, then the things they're going to do are going to be different if they can take their time. Excellent. So knowing these things will help you design questions, and not that it's going to be a script, but you'll know what to ask people for the information that you need to find out, which leads us to the next cornerstone. The person asking the questions controls the conversations. Think about an interview, right? If you're on an interview for a job, the person asking you the question, they're really controlling that conversation. So something to consider. A lot of people will say, especially people who have their own businesses or they're in sales, will say, I need more opportunities. I really need more opportunities. I would suggest that, yes, you want more opportunities, but what you really need is to ask more questions. And what I mean by that is when you ask questions and you do that over a period of time, what does that lead to? That leads to a conversation. It becomes a back and forth because somebody's going to answer. Maybe they're going to ask you a question. It becomes a conversation. Then that conversation, and this is really important, becomes a relationship. It's very unlikely that someone is going to buy something from you or agree to do something or make any kind of change if there's not some kind of a relationship. Can it be quick? Can that conversation lead to something quickly? Potentially. But for many of us, it takes time to build that relationship. Then those relationships, that's what leads to the opportunity. And of course, what we all want after that, an action, right? So an opportunity that hopefully leads to a sale or the person taking the job or whatever the response that you want is. I remember when I was in the first session learning about this work, and the facilitator said, now let me ask you, how many of you have ever asked somebody to marry you? And half the room raised their hand. So it's somebody's not going to ask someone to marry them when they just met them. They have to get to know each other. There has to be a relationship before that opportunity can happen. Now, what's really important is to think about, you may have some conversations that you had that maybe didn't go as well as you would like, and there's an opportunity to revisit them. So you don't have to put it in the chat, but on your notes, are there people that you maybe want to revisit a conversation with? And I'll give you an example in my own world. The people that I like to revisit conversations with, even if they went well, would be previous clients, because they may become clients again, or they may be able to refer me, and my best referral partners. So those are the people that I like to revisit periodically because it just makes sense, right? You already have a relationship. So you're starting from a later point in this path. So, and if you feel like it, if there's a relationship where there's an unrealized opportunity that you would like to renew, feel free to put it in the chat, but really just mark it down for yourself. That's the key thing. So this is what I call the triangle of trust. You need to be curious for long enough to provide context, to be able to say that phrase I said, the because you said XYZ. So you need to be curious for long enough, and that builds the certainty in both of your minds. Because for instance, in the questions I ask my clients, I'm looking to find out just as much as they are whether I'm the right fit. I might not be. I might want to introduce them to somebody else. They might not need what I have at this point in time. So being curious for long enough helps you determine together, both people, whether it makes sense to move forward. And what that does is it shows empathy. It shows that you have empathy and builds relatability. So it's that show them that you know them kind of button. And thinking about, are the conversations you're having about them or about you? Because if you've built up this relationship, this trust, gotten the context from the questions that you're asking will be a natural thing. So asking for the sale, for instance, it may take a little bit of courage. I'm actually shy. You might not know it, but I'm a shy person. So asking for that action should feel like a natural step. If you're at a point where you kind of want to ask, but you don't feel like you have enough information, then you're going to go around the triangle again. You're going to ask more questions till it becomes just a natural, it makes sense to ask in that point. And we all know if you don't ask in the chat, what comes next in that phrase? If you don't ask,
You don't get
exactly
what you're looking for.
Exactly. And I'll tell you a story in terms of it having to be about them. Before I started my business, I worked for a company and we were looking for a new software product that was going to live behind the website. And I was down to the final 3 potential vendors. And it was December. So the end of the year, the end of the quarter. One of the salespeople called me up and he was practically crying on the phone, telling me he had to make a boat payment. Do I care that he has to make a boat payment? He had not asked enough questions. He had not shown any empathy. He had not built up that relationship strong because I don't care. What does that have to do with me? Right. So always making it about them too. And it has to honestly be about them. If you're desperate for a sale or desperate for the result that you're hoping for, people can feel it. So this is really, really key. Now I'm going to move into some of the phrases. There are 6 categories of phrases that we talk about in this work. The first is a rejection-free opening. So this is how to put somebody at ease and make them feel like you're not trying to just sell them something. Yes, Ronnie, your curiosity must be genuine. Absolutely. So rejection-free openings is the first category. Then perspective changers. And this is inviting somebody to see a different perspective, right? Remember I said you can't change somebody's mind, but you can help them potentially change it for themselves. Assumptive frames. Sometimes when this has to be combined with honest integrity, whatever you want to call it, but it can help somebody narrow their decision down because I don't know about you, but if I walk in somewhere and there's like 100 choices, I can't make a decision. So it helps them narrow their decisions down. The next one is labeling. And while typically if I said you're going to label something, you would think of that as a bad thing. What these phrases do in this category is help you create a sense of belonging or understanding about what you're talking about. Then staying in the game. And this is when the conversation seems to be going in the wrong direction. You feel like it's derailed, getting it back to curiosity and the conversation you're trying to have. And finally, making conversations count, just some extra phrases to help you achieve more. And before I go into the phrases, I want to tell you about magic words math. So this work that we're doing comes from my business in April is going to be 14 years old, and is mostly helping people have conversations on LinkedIn, but also when networking, when having sales conversations, all these things, because most conversations, the same rules apply in person, online, via email, whatever it might be. Add that to the 23 words that are in the original book. There are more words in the workbook, which I use when I do workshops or the full 2-day certification where everybody learns deep into all the phrases. So it's like compounding interest. So we certainly don't have time to go into all the phrases today. So I've picked one from each category, not necessarily my favorite ones, but the ones I think that you'll be able to implement quickly. So the first one, a rejection-free opening. I'm not sure if it's for you, but now a lot of people have, if they've had sales training, have been told that the word but is a negative thing and they shouldn't use it. In this case, what it does is whatever you say after the word but, that's what the person focuses on. And if you say it with an even tone, which I'm still working on when I use it, it doesn't make it like it's a negative thing. It just kind of says to them, I don't know, this might be for you, this might not be for you. So it's not pushy. And so an example, not sure if it's you, but we're opening a new division and I thought you might be a good fit. So that's in an internal hiring or having somebody move roles kind of way. Or I'm not sure if it's for you, but who do you know that might be interested in a similar product or service? So I'd like to give you a challenge now. And this is a fun thing. It's called the text challenge. And when I did a program recently, a person sent the text and actually got the response during the program. So if you're courageous enough to send a text that I'll describe to you and you get a response, I'd love to hear it in the chat. Please let us know. Look at your list of conversations either that you want to revisit or a conversation that you'd like to have but haven't yet. And if there's somebody where you know their text, know them well enough that you have their number, or you could do it by email. Is there something you'd like to ask somebody about to start a conversation? Send them a text. Come up with and I'm not sure it's for you, but phrase. The example was actually a personal one in the situation I told you. The woman had been trying to get her daughter to talk about college and planning for college, and she just didn't seem to get her to be able to do it. Somehow this phrase broke through that, and she was able to get her to say, yeah, we'll talk about it later. So think of, I'm not sure if it's basically an invitation. So it could be an invitation to a conversation. It could be an invitation to an event, right? It could be a personal thing. Not sure if it's for you, but I'm going to see the movie Dune's coming out. I'm going to see Dune. Would you like to join me? So it doesn't have to be for this experience. It doesn't have to be a critical conversation, just to get practice using the phrase. So I'll give you a minute to do that. And if you get a response back, let us know. It's really fun when it happens. Also, if you're comfortable, if you have an example that you'd like to share in the chat, what you're going to ask, feel free. You don't have to, of course. It's your world, your life. So I'll give you a minute to do that. Yes, Allie likes the idea of practicing it in a less critical conversation to get used to it. Yeah, it takes time to have it just be a natural part of your conversation. I mean, I'm still working on it, right? And that's actually why they called it exactly what to say guides, not exactly what to say experts, because I'm just further along in the practice of this work than you are. For the realtors, one I've heard used is, I'm not sure if it's for you, but I'm having an open house this weekend. Would you like to come? I still see people looking down at their phones or their paper, so I'll wait just a little bit more and then we will move on to the next phrase. And again, if you get a response, please share with us. You don't have to share what the conversation was, but just that you got a response. And if you want to, of course, then you can share. All right, the next phrase is a perspective changer. What is your experience? And this one, I love this when, you know how sometimes you're talking to somebody and it feels argumentative and it doesn't need to be, and you're not sure why the person's being kind of cranky with you. You're not sure what the story is. It can uncover previous experiences that you don't know about. So the reason that somebody is hesitant or whatever it might be, it also collects evidence for that phrase because you said. So an example that I've used is, what is your experience working with professional speaker? Because that's different than working with a non-professional speaker. Or in a hiring perspective, somebody might say, what is your experience leading remotely or working with people remotely? So on paper or in the chat, what are some examples in your world that things you need to uncover? So a question you might ask somebody using what is your experience? And Cindy plans to ask people to consider joining her network. Great. Yeah, that's a great one. And obviously joining something that doesn't include a fee, that they're much more likely to say yes to that. So that's great. What is your experience? And if anybody wants to share one of their examples, feel free to do that. Brandy, what is your experience working with when developers? Is that what it is? When developers. What is your experience working with independent contractors? Great. Christina, what is your experience working with a realtor? Yeah, because what if it's somebody's first time working with a realtor? Web, Brandy, got it. What is your experience with therapy? Yeah, that's a great one because people may have had a bad experience. They may have had good experience, may have had no experience, but you'll learn from that. And that will become part of your because you said statement. I love that. All right. What is your experience with IEPs? Yeah, for the schools. And certainly, I suspect you'll get the whole story when you ask that. Cindy, what is your experience personally or professionally as a caregiver? Love it. And having these questions ready, right? It helps you uncover the information that you need to get. What is your experience with consultations with other firms? Yeah, you can ask that. Absolutely. And it really gives you the full story. It brings all that stuff out that you need to hear. Yes, Allie, to meet people where they are. Absolutely. And you can't rush this, right? It can't feel like you're just reading, like you're asking questions from a script and not even listening for the reply. It really needs to be that conversation that we were talking about. All right. So that's another. The next one. There are two types of people. Now, this is from the assumptive frames. And this is where, remember I said, right, if we have 100 decisions, it's really hard to make one sometimes. So this narrows it down and gives people two things to think about. And immediately it creates curiosity, which, as we know, is a fuel for a conversation, because the person, when you say that, the person wonders, well, which one am I? So an example might be there are two types of people: those that look to buy using the cheapest option, or those who are looking for value. And this one really works well, I find, online and in person. I really like this one both ways. So in your world, can you think of something that you could narrow it down to and share in the chat? But there are two types of people, those that, and what's the other one? So in real estate, there are two types of people, those that have sold their home on their own before. I don't know if people do that, and those that have worked with a broker, or there are those that are looking for the quickest option, or maybe the strongest option. So it's a balance, right? Two different options. Anybody have one that they want to share in the chat? There are two types of people: those who proactively contact reporters and those that wait for the call. Oh, I love that, Janet. Yes. Yeah. I know which I am. I don't proactively. Yeah. Anybody else have one? There are two types of people, those that prefer therapeutic experiences and those that prefer working one-to-one. Yeah, and that works great for a lot of people. I mean, I use that as well because I offer group programs and one-to-one programs. Yeah. And in that case, it not only helps someone make a decision, it helps uncover more information that you need for that because you said statement. All of these really do that. Yep, those that prioritize, I can't speak this morning, long-term or short-term solutions. Love it. And all of these things, if you're taking notes, all of these you can start to use in these critical conversations that you're having. Well, now I want to take just a little break and I'm going to share 3 more phrases with you. What I want to understand so far, because, we're engaging just in the chat and it's different than if we were in person. In the chat, tell me which phrase or idea that we've talked about so far are you going to use immediately? Which one resonates with you? Either a phrase or one of the ideas. Two types. What is your experience? Yeah, they're all great. All of the phrases are really great to explore putting into the conversations. What is your experience? Oh, what is your experience is the winner today, it looks like, folks. Okay. Oh, I'm not sure if it's for you, Bob. Yeah. And there's a concept called stacking that I didn't talk about, but it's where you use the phrases together. I'll try to give you an example or point out if I've used one. Let me think. I'm not sure if it's for you, but I'm putting on an event next week, and there are two types of people, those that like group events and those that would prefer to work one-to-one. So there are ways to sort of combine the phrases because you said, yeah, that is super important, Dolores. So tell me, I'm curious. In the chat, yes or no, would you like to learn more phrases? Want to hear the other 3? Yes. All right. Excellent. Well, now you're going to hear something. I'm going to say there are 2 types of people. Those that would like to be on my mailing list to find out about more talks I give like this, and those that would love to immediately be able to figure out how to apply this work into their world and learn more about phrases. So I'm going to put it in the chat. If you want to be on my mailing list, feel free. I don't send a lot of email, and it tends to be about events. Sometimes it's about LinkedIn. The other is I would love to offer 2 people a 15-minute conversation to really dig into how they can use this in their world today to help them do what they're trying to do. So let me put those in the chat. And you'll notice I use the 2 types of people in what I said to you. I guess because I don't have the HTTPS. Anyway, you get it. Would these help in job interviews? Oh, absolutely. So that's a critical conversation. So Becca, where you are being interviewed, or if you're interviewing someone else. Yes. So absolutely. You can absolutely use these. I'm just thinking, well, first of all, the concept of being curious, right? When someone's interviewing you, you're interviewing them just as much because you want to find out if this organization will be what you need. I could see using, what is your experience hiring somebody for this thing? What happened? How did they grow? What happened for that person? Because then it could be something that happens for you. And even the 2 types of people, I could see that being, there are 2 types of people who, I can't think of a good example at the moment, but I absolutely, it's a critical conversation and it works really for all, in my mind, all critical conversations. Yeah. And there's one coming up that I think would be good for, absolutely, would be good for for being an interviewee. The next one is from the labeling category, and it's the good news. The good news is, and this combats negativity or fear in a person. So, for instance, maybe somebody's looking to take a job or take a new role, and they're a little nervous. They don't know what it's all about, or work with you. An example might be, the good news is we've worked with dozens of people or hundreds of people or whatever number who have been in a similar situation and have gone on to be really successful. We're here to support you with that. I think that I think there's some people in the room that could tell us better, but I feel like often people are very wired to look at the negative. And so you can rephrase something to look at what's the good news side of that story. So on your papers, think about something that somebody might be apprehensive about in the conversation you're having or feel like it's a negative thing. And how could you say the good news? I know in real estate, right, there's a lot of turmoil going on now. I'm sure there are some the good news statements that you could make in that world for sure. And, you know, is there something related to changes in the industry? Janet, there may be stuff with AI, or I don't even know, right? Where there's some good news about having personal relationships with the people that you're doing the public relations with, et cetera. So the good news, that's one. And then this next one is the one that I think is really good for both somebody in a sales conversation and interviewee. This is one of my favorites. So this is in the staying in the game category, and it's helped me understand. And I actually used this recently. I have a bad back, and the doctor's office was trying to have me go have an appointment with the PA and not the doctor. And first of all, I wanted to talk to the doctor. I felt like seeing the PA, there would be a game of telephone. So I actually use this. Help me understand why you are setting me up to meet with the PA. So this is really good. It softens the tone. It's not like saying, why are you? Again, like all these phrases, help me understand the situation. Oh, and Christina shared a good news one. The good news is if you list your home, we're likely to get a lot of interest because of the low inventory. Yeah, that's a great one. An example is a good one for the sales conversation is you don't always know, you haven't uncovered what their sales process is or decision-making process is. So I like to say, help me understand the decision-making process. Who needs to approve this before we move forward? So who has some examples of help me understand that would work in their world? Help me understand. And again, this also uncovers things for that because you said phrase. They all do. Help me understand these policy changes. Ooh, that's a good one. Could you stack, help me understand what your experience is? Yeah, I might say it, help me understand your experience with. Help me understand your apprehension. It's all just using curiosity, but in different ways and phrases. Help me understand what you need to get out of sponsorship. Yeah, that's a good one. Help me understand why you're starting this business at this time. Yeah. Help me, because you're going to uncover so much from that, right? And that the help me understand and then what is your experience, I think are similar, but can be used in different ways. Help me understand what you're aiming to accomplish with this new feature. Yeah, right? Look, if you don't ask enough questions about, say, a website design, right? You might build a beautiful site, but then it doesn't have some feature, isn't doing what they really needed it to do. Absolutely. So then the making conversations count. These are just extra phrases to do a little more just out of curiosity. Now, often we don't like the word just, right? It diminishes things, but this one, I like this one. It's great. My favorite way to use this one is if somebody says they need time to think about it. because it takes the pressure off. Normally, if somebody says, I need time to think about it, somebody might say, well, why? But that's combative. So the key here, when you ask a just out of curiosity question, is to not say anything and wait. And it may feel like, because you need to give the person a chance to think. And sometimes that time, even though it might be 30 seconds, it might be a minute, can feel like it's 10 minutes. So it's like sit on your hands. Don't say anything. Let them come up with what they're going to respond to you. And so an example, what needs to happen for you to make a decision? Just out of curiosity, what might happen between now and when we speak next that will help you decide? Just out of curiosity, why was I overlooked for this opportunity? Just out of curiosity, I'm at a loss for another one, but you get the idea, right? Just out of curiosity, it helps take the pressure off and helps uncover again why, if there's a stop in the conversation, it helps move that along. So now what I want you to do on your paper, please repeat the example. Sure. Just out of curiosity, what needs to happen for you to make a decision? What are the steps for you to make a decision? Just out of curiosity, what might happen between now and our next scheduled appointment that will help you make a decision? If you were hoping for a promotion or some kind of opportunity, just out of curiosity, why was I overlooked for this opportunity, or why did somebody else get this opportunity? I use this when I'm having a conversation with somebody. If someone else was picked for, say, a speaking gig, it doesn't happen often. Usually I'm not up against somebody else, but in a recent case, I knew that I was, and I knew the person, and she's great. So I wanted to understand for future conversations. So I said, just out of curiosity, why did you pick this person at that time? And it was related to location and fee. So she charged less and she was closer. So it would save them money because they wouldn't have to pay for a hotel stay. So, right. And you learn stuff both for that situation, but also for future situations. I'll ask more questions related to their budget, for instance. Oh, so many conversations. I know, so many phrases. And that's only 6 of them, right? So we've talked about the 4 cornerstones of conversational excellence. We've gone over 6 phrases. And I'm curious, did anybody actually send a text and get a response? It's so exciting when it happens. It might not we've only had a short time together, but so what I'd like you to do is try to incorporate these ideas and these phrases. And the more you do it, the more comfortable and natural it will be. In the beginning, it'll feel funny because it might be, and you can change it to sound more like you, for instance. One of the phrases is, I'm guessing you haven't gotten around to or got around to. And because the author of the book is British, I feel like sometimes he says things in a different way than I would say it. So you can make it your own. Janet asks, can you use these questions in email? Absolutely. I often, if you're on my mailing list, you've probably seen me use them in the subject lines. It might not be for you, but there are 2 types of people because that creates curiosity. I think they often work in writing. So what I am really curious how these phrases work for you. So I'm putting my email up there, my contact information, because as you go out into the world and use this information, I really want to know how it works for you. So please let me know in the next couple of days, next week, use these things and let me know how it goes.
It's very interesting. It makes me think of so many things. In my job, this is what I do every single day, as do the therapists. I mean, everybody that deals with other people have to learn how to elicit from that person what they want. And I find that people do want to talk about themselves. So if you open a conversation, I tell people about networking all the time. Don't start a networking conversation with Hi, how do you do? This is what I do. Hi, how do you do? What do you do? Is all you need to do. And
Yes.
people just
Yeah.
love to talk about themselves. And then when they respond to that, you can ask questions along the way. It helps that I'm totally curious about other people. I love people's stories. My ex-husband used to tell me that I should have been a talk show host. So I guess I have a good job for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's this is great also for introverts or people who feel like they're shy because if somebody said, I don't know what to say, you don't have to say anything. You ask a question, it gets the conversation going.
100%.
Yeah. And Brandy says these seem valuable to user research as well, active listening and asking. Yeah, absolutely. And it's not like you're reading from a script with these things. And you have to listen for the response because that will guide you in the next thing that you say. So absolutely.
People know if you're being genuine too. People can sense that if your eyes are looking all over the place or if you're looking at them, people know.
Absolutely.
It's
Yeah.
I mean, this is a book that I certainly want to go out and get myself. I don't know about everybody else. Um,
The book has 23 of the phrases in the work and the programs that I put on. There are additional phrases. I don't recall. I may have given you some that were from the original book and some that were from the additional ideas. But there's also, and I'll have to see if I can get the link for it. There's a video version, sort of video version of the book or audio version of the book, um, where it's like it might only be $1 or some like really
right.
easy way. But yeah.
It's there was a book years ago that it's also wonderful called Emotional Intelligence, by Daniel Goleman and that, that talks a lot about this. And I'm reading a book right now by David Brooks, the New York Times journalist. It's called How to Really Know a Person, I think.
Hmm.
And he talks about illuminators and diminishers, that what kind of person are you? Are you an illuminator or are you a diminisher? And it's also very helpful in these kinds of situations. But I had never heard of this book. And I think anyone that deals with the public needs to sharpen this up.
Yeah, it's really powerful stuff, and um, it some I don't know about. It seems like in terms of the industries that some of you are in, I'm a reluctant salesperson. I didn't go into business to sell. I went into business because I had a skill or an experience to share. And so it really helps me with especially for me, the sales conversations.
Really interesting.
Yeah. Oh, and the book is called Exactly What to Say by Phil M. Jones. I'll put it in the chat.
Well,
And
I'd like to hear if
in the
anybody
book,
has
it
anything.
doesn't have the concepts that we talked about. So the book is just the phrases. So you've learned even more than
Is there anything else that let me see, are there any other chats?
no, I think we're good.
We're good. Well, does anyone have anything they'd like to share? We do have a few more minutes. If not, we can end, but I'd love to open this up for any kind of conversation. If you want to unmute and if you have anything to add, like I just mentioned the books that I know about, if anyone has anything else to add, please speak up. If not, oops, what did I do? That's great. Oh, I should also mention that Beth did she's an expert on LinkedIn, and she did give a workshop on using LinkedIn to your best advantage. I forget what we called it though, but we've
Unleash the power of LinkedIn, probably.
unleashing the power of LinkedIn. Right. We
And
did that one
actually,
twice.
yeah, and I'm actually doing that same one for your friends in Farmingdale, the Farmingdale SBDC.
Yes, she asked me
Um,
for your
I
name.
think on the
Yep.
13th or 14th. I forget which date.
Excellent. That's good. So you should all check that out because that was a great workshop as well. And LinkedIn, I mean, I don't use it enough, really. I'm ashamed to say, but anyone that uses LinkedIn, now I am recommending it to almost every single person
Excellent.
because what was it yesterday? I had a client and I said, you know, you may not think that LinkedIn is a good place for you, but it is because people do use it as a networking opportunity and they share information with each other. It becomes a community, really.
Oh,
So,
and speaking of networking, Ronnie has asked me and the
Ellen,
person that taught me to network, Ellen
okay.
Volpe, to do a
Yes,
networking session, I think in April.
yes, yes. I don't, what is the date that we have? Well, you can all look it up. Please go to our website. All of the workshops that we have, I don't know how you all found out about it, but could be from the website that we have. So please, you can just Google Stony Brook SBDC, and all of our workshops are listed there, and it'll take you to another place to sign up and put all your information in, and you can sign up that way. I'm just trying to see when we have it. Yes, the 18th of April is the networking event that we planned. Okay.
Wonderful.
Everyone, I want to thank you for all coming. Please feel free to give a call to the Small Business Development Center, even if you just want to chat for a second and see how we can help you. You can go to the website or you can call 631-632-9837. And there you go. Becca just put it in the chat. Thank you, Becca. You're so fast. Great. So please feel free to reach out. We're
And
free.
let me know how you use the words.
Yes, that would be really good. I'd love to know too. So thank you all for coming. Thank you, Beth, as always. We'll see you all again soon, I hope, and have a wonderful day.